Alright, so in this video, I'll be trying to compare vanilla PvP balance or era PvP balance to Season of Discovery PvP balance and see how classes do against or in a 1v1 scenario. So this is the vanilla class balance in a duel scenario or a 1v1 open world scenario. You got your warlocks for sure at the top together with the priest, and we could argue which is better, but I think the warlock has a better chance at beating other classes than the priest has, and I also think that the warlock equally skilled warlock will beat a shadow priest if they're equally skilled. And then we could say maybe rogue is up here as well, or down here, because I think for rogue will beat or a good rogue can beat a good warlock. A rogue can also beat a shadow priest. It's harder for a rogue to beat a shadow priest than a warlock, as far as what I've seen. Remember, this is just an opinion piece, and I'm not I don't pretend to be the expert on this. The classes that I play the most are Hunter, and I play Shaman, and I play Rogue. I also play a little bit of Paladin, but that's pretty much it. The rest is just classes that I've fought. So I'd say, for me, I think Rogue is at the top of the A tier. So I think this is the right position for him, or the right place. And then we have Hunter, and this is Elemental Shaman. And we could also discuss whether or not is the Elemental Shaman maybe better than a Hunter. If Hunter and Elemental Shaman are fighting and they're equally skilled, I think the Elemental Shaman will most likely beat the Hunter. But if we're talking about which class beats most other classes, then I actually think that the Hunter stands a better chance at beating other classes than the Elemental Shaman. I don't know if that makes sense, but a Hunter will have an easier time beating a Warrior, will have an easier time beating a Mage, will probably also have an easier time beating a Paladin, I don't know, but would definitely have an easier time beating a Rogue, a Priest, and a Warlock than a Shaman will. Warlock has many great counters to Elemental Shaman with the Curse of Tongues, and of course Shaman has some great counters versus Priest with purging off the shields. But as you get to higher and higher gear levels, I think a skilled Priest will still beat a skilled Elemental Shaman. If we say Shaman is, if it's an Enhancement Shaman, he'll be down here, sure. And for Warrior, I think it's somewhere down here. And they really need some sort of support, some sort of support healer to really pop off. A great support class for Warrior is a Paladin with freedom, giving the Warrior freedom. So, because that's the biggest trouble with Warrior is they are easily kited. So, and even in a melee fight, I've fought many Warriors, even with Might of Minifil, as a Hunter, and usually I say I win 80% of the time as a Hunter. So again, if we are equally skilled, Hunter beats Warrior. Elemental Shaman, this can go both ways, but if the Elemental Shaman has nades, just one nade is enough, one stun is enough to nuke a Warrior. Rogue, it can go both ways. Warrior and Rogue can go both ways. I saw fights with Perplexity fighting against Monkey News, and I consider Perplexity one of the best vanilla rogues ever. Also Payoff, of course, and I think Monkey News is probably one of the best warriors. So, and I think those fights can go both ways. So maybe it's up here for the Warrior. Mage is up here, in my opinion, together with Warlock and Priest, but at the end. So Warlock is the best, then Priest, then Mage. Or you could say Mage, then Priest. This one could be either way. Usually Mage will beat a Rogue, but this can go both ways. Mage will definitely beat a Hunter in most cases in a 1v1 scenario, and will definitely also beat a Elemental Shaman in most cases, and for sure will beat a Warrior. Warrior doesn't stand a chance against a good Mage. And Paladin, I think, is somewhere here. Paladin can beat a Hunter. Paladin can also beat a Rogue. I think Paladin might have more trouble beating an Elemental Shaman, but it can be done. A Paladin won't beat a Warlock, a Paladin won't beat a Shadow Priest, and a Paladin will not beat a Mage for sure. Some of you might say, well, I'm a Paladin, I can beat a Mage or a Priest. And of course, if you I think those are rare scenarios. If you go with a high resistance set as a Paladin against the Shadow Priest, then of course you can beat a Shadow Priest. But that's not normal scenario, if you will. In most cases, a Shadow Priest will completely wreck Paladin and Warrior for sure. And then we have Druid. Druid is actually difficult to place because Druid, I think a good Druid will for sure beat a Warrior and a Paladin. Can also sometimes beat a Hunter, a Shaman, and a Rogue. If you've ever seen SoD PvP play his Feral Druid, they can be incredibly good, but usually because the skill ceiling is so high, usually Druid isn't that good. For most people who play Druid, I think they're somewhere down here, maybe here, but a really skilled player who plays Druid to perfection and has all the perfect gear, all the correct gear, all the gimmicky gear, because you need some weird stuff and you need to swap out gear depending on what class you fight. A Druid can for sure be up here. And a Druid sometimes even, like, the Druid is a good counter to a Mage because you can't really Nova and he can't sheep the Druid. So when fighting a Mage, I'd say the Druid wins. When fighting a Priest and a Warlock, the Druid will lose. Fighting a Hunter, that can go both ways for the Druid. Sometimes he will win, sometimes he'll lose. And that's because the Hunter can always just trap and then eat and drink to full trap and fear, eat and drink to full health, and then continue the fight. So this Hunter versus Druid becomes an attrition fight. Druid versus Elemental Shaman. I think the Elemental Shaman, because he has so much burst, he'll probably win this. Unless if somehow the Druid can survive the burst of an Elemental Shaman, then again it becomes a fight of attrition and it really becomes who can conserve their mana best wins. Against the Rogue, that can also go both ways. I think a Druid and a Rogue, I think the Rogue will usually win this one, but a skilled Druid can also really just beat a Rogue to the point where the Rogue doesn't feel like he has a chance. I think against Warrior and against Paladin, the Druid will likely win in most cases. A good Paladin might be able to burst down a Druid, or if the Paladin plays extremely tanky with a lot of sustain, then a Feral Druid, he'll have to go into spell damage in order to take down the Paladin. Against the Paladin, this will be a fight that lasts forever. So I think somewhere around here, this would be the class balance in vanilla. If this is an enhancement shaman, we move him down here, maybe even down here, because enhancement in PvP in vanilla is just really, really RNG based. And in most cases, if you don't get those Wind Fury procs, you're just dead. But as an elemental, I think he's up here. Most of these classes up here, just to sum it up and reiterate before we move on to SoD balance, most of these classes will beat the classes below, and most of these classes will beat the classes below. And there you have outliers, of course. Sometimes, because a Druid is a good counter to a Mage will sometimes lose to a Druid, but it can go both ways. But we're just talking generally in a 1v1 scenario. These classes beat the classes below. These classes beat the classes below, considering everybody is equally skilled and equally geared. Is there anything else I want to add to this? Yeah, we could also argue about this, is Elemental Shaman better than Hunter, or maybe even Hunter in some scenarios is back here. I think a Hunter has a much better time dealing with a Rogue and a Warrior than an Elemental Shaman has. But that's just my opinion. That's just my take. This is what I've seen. This is my experience with vanilla PvP. So now moving on to Season of Discovery, I say Elemental Shaman is probably for sure the best right now. Probably for sure. That makes sense. That doesn't make any sense. But I think he is for sure the best. And then we have Drained Life Warlock. Is that Affliction? I don't know if that's Affliction Warlock, but those are also incredibly strong right now. And what else do we have? I think then we have a gap here, because this is just to illustrate how overpowered these two classes are right now. The Elemental Shaman beats most classes right now. A Rogue can sometimes beat Elemental Shaman because with all the CC stun locks and interrupts, the Shaman won't really be able to get a proc or a spell, a hard cast spell off. He'll be relying on procs. But I think in most cases, Elemental will still beat any spec of Rogue. Warrior, I think it's down here. Those are having a tough time some skilled warriors, you can move them higher for sure, but in general, I think from what I've seen, warriors are having a hard time right now in PvP. Priests, I think they're equal to rogue. Hunter, I think they're also up here. If Hunter is at a range, he'll be here. If you can just stand at a range and kite forever. But as soon as somebody jumps on the Hunter, he doesn't have disengage. He doesn't have deterrence. Well, he has deterrence, but it only works for melee, and it's still just a chance. It's not like the turtle shell in retail, and it's not like the later versions of deterrence. So as soon as somebody is on top of the Hunter, say a warrior or a rogue. A rogue is probably the most difficult class for the Hunter to stay away from, as it is, because Hunter got some gap closes with Shadow Step, but the rogue got some of the gap closes, but the Hunter doesn't have any way to get away from other than placing a trap, and traps share diminishing returns with scatter shot, so you can only place so many traps together with scatter shot before the target gets immune. So in most cases it'll probably be somewhere between rogue and priest. And then we have mage. I think also mage is very, very squishy as it is right now. They're so easily bursted down there. The shields doesn't really help them a lot. So yeah, I think somewhere around here, maybe up here as well, because they can also burst as a pyro mage or fire mage. You can burst. You can also do it if you line up everything perfect with frost orb and the ice lance thing, and you silence your target. Then you can actually line everything up perfectly and then beat most classes, I think. But those are very skilled mages. So somewhere around here. It's very difficult actually because I haven't been dueling much, mostly not because I don't want to, but people are not dueling a lot in Season of Discovery right now. So it's hard to know exactly where to put different classes. I think Feral Druid, probably for PvP. I think Boomkin is probably up here. I think they have a lot of burst, but it really also depends on the match. There's so much one-shotting in the game right now, so it's actually quite difficult to say where classes belong. And I think Feral Druid is maybe down here together with Warrior. And then Retribution, I don't really have any experience with Retribution. This is just off of the videos I've seen on YouTube with Paladin PvP and others talking about what a Retribution Paladin can do in PvP. I think it's somewhere around here. So yeah, I think this is it. Some of you may argue that I should do like this or like this, and I can see that would be a valid point. If Geared Hunter can pretty much one-shot anyone, so if he gets a good start, then he'll even take down an Elemental Shaman or a Warlock pretty quickly. Same for Rogue. They have a lot of burst and they can take down a Warlock or an Elemental Shaman. Oh, and for Enhancement Shaman, right now I'd probably put them down here. I think Enhancement Shaman still beats Warrior. In most cases it still beats Feral Druid and also Boomkin Druid. I haven't really fought that many Paladins, and I think with the Decoy Totem against mages, I think the Enhancement Shaman still beats Mage, so he would probably go up here. And then against the Shadow Priest, it can go both ways. Against Rogues, I think Enhancement Shaman is going to lose, and against a Hunter, I think the Enhancement Shaman is gonna lose, and as well against the Warlock, in most cases the Enhancement Shaman is gonna lose. But if he's an Elemental Shaman with all the plus healing, he goes up in S tier. He's the best. So as you can see, the balance is a lot more spread out, and I think the gap between the top tier are maybe something like this, because I feel like there's really a gap between these classes and the classes on S tier. So the classes from B and below and the classes up to S, there's like a gap here. Comparing this to vanilla, I think everything is much more close. There's also not so much burst in vanilla. You can actually, it's more of a chess game. You can actually think, you get to think about your next decision. This Season of Discovery feels a lot more like I wouldn't say retail, because in retail you're just doing everything and you're smashing every key on your keyboard, but nothing's really happening. But it's just so bursty. It's hard to, like, everyone can beat everyone with the right amount of burst and the right setup. But I think this is overall something like this is probably the closest to what I'd say 1v1 scenario looks like in PvP for Season of Discovery. Guys, let me know in the comments below what's your opinion of the class balance in Season of Discovery. What did I get wrong? Do you agree with this? If this is the vanilla balance, I think most people will agree with this. I've seen a lot of, this is not only my opinion, this is also the opinion of Saro, and I think SoD PvP also did a tier list for vanilla balance. So I think this is pretty agreed upon. But let me know in the comments, do you agree? Do you disagree? What should have been different? I don't know much about the Paladin, so maybe he's a lot better than I'm getting him credit for. But let me know in the comments, and thank you guys for watching. And remember to like and subscribe if you liked the video. See you in the next video.